Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and again, the most wonderful committee that we have here. This is Mia Snyder. She is my policy director, and she's got some slides just to show you, demonstrate what we're talking about today. I'm asking for your favorable report on House Bill 733. This bill actually requires MTA and MARC trains to do what they're already supposed to be doing, right? Which is to provide real-time audible and text-based announcements for all stops and critical service information on fixed route transit. By ensuring that both clear audible announcements and reliable visual displays are available, this legislation will make Maryland's public transportation system more accessible to riders, particularly those who are blind, low vision, deaf, or hard of hearing. It also ensures that Maryland is in compliance with federal Americans with the Disabilities Act requirements. Under the ADA, fixed route transit providers must ensure that passengers with disabilities have equivalent access to information about stops and routes. I mean, I don't have to explain to you why this is important. You are going to hear from someone later who has difficulty, whose daughter has difficulty in these areas. But if you are a person who is hard of hearing and a visual display is not working to tell you where your stop is, it's very difficult for you to know where you are and how to get off. If you are a person who is visually impaired and there's not an audible announcement that you can hear, it is very difficult for you to navigate the transportation system. It is law, federal law, that they already do this. So, unfortunately, in fact, though, the announcements and the displays on these systems are inconsistent. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they aren't. Often they are broken. So this is where I'm going to pull up the slide for you to see. The person who brought this bill to me actually is a deaf and hard of hearing woman who does travel regularly by public transit. She has to work. And what we're showing you there, if you can see it, is the visual displays either not on. They're in and I think this is an important point, they're actually in these trains and on these buses, but they are not actively working. So you'll see that no service, some of them say, and then the others are blank. Out for service seems to be a very popular one as well. So it's really just not acceptable. So forcing riders with disabilities of different kinds to navigate using guesswork is not appropriate, and it's not acceptable for this state, and it's actually not legal. And so I bring this bill to you requiring, in fact, that we have these accessible transportation options for people with disabilities on our public transit, fixed route public transit systems. Now, when I first started talking to the Maryland Department of Transportation, MTA, and MARC about this, they basically told us, yeah, we take care of this, we do this. So you can imagine how surprised I was to see an $8 million fiscal note so that they could take care of this and do this. I'm not sure where to go with that from right here. I can tell you that this is something that we are already supposed to be doing by federal law. We are not doing it. And at the very least, we need to find a way to push this forward so people with disabilities can get around safely on our public transit systems. So I am going to open it up now to, I believe I have one virtual, maybe two virtual testimonies.
Yeah, there are two.
All right with you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Ronza Othman from the National Federation of the Blind.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly.
Excellent. Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, of course, and members of the committee, my name is Ronza Othman, and I am the president of the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland. NFB of Maryland is the state's oldest and largest organization of and for blind, low vision, and deafblind individuals. We're very grateful to Delegate Guyton for bringing this legislation forward. We depend on public transportation to move about our communities, to go to school, to medical appointments, and so on. The story I'm about to share is one we experience quite frequently, all the time. I go to take a bus and I stand at a busy bus stop. A bus rolls up and I can't see the sign that says which bus it is or what route because I'm blind. If the audio announcements are turned on and working, I hear the bus number and route and I jump on my bus and go on my merry way to wherever I'm headed. But if the announcements are not on or not working or very low, which is quite often the case, I don't know if it's my bus, and more often than not, I have to ask strangers which bus it is. By the time I figure out if it's my bus, I've missed my chance to board it. Let's say I do board the bus, but I don't know where I am as we are approaching my stop because I'm blind. I can't identify where I am by visual cues, and thus I rely on the audio announcements. If I miss my stop, I'm then forced to get off at a different stop in a neighborhood unfamiliar to me, and I have to figure out where or how to get back to where I was supposed to get off. Sometimes a few unfamiliar blocks, sometimes a very scary, unfamiliar mile or more. Drivers turn down the announcements because they find them annoying. That's unacceptable, and a safety risk. When buses are inspected before starting their routes, a broken auditory announcement system is not considered major enough to keep that bus out of circulation or for expedited maintenance. This is beyond inconvenience. It's dangerous. For the reasons I shared here, as well as in my written testimony, we urge a favorable report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We also have Ben Dubin.
Good afternoon. My name is Benjamin Dubin. By way of background, I'm a father of a profoundly deaf daughter. I served for 24 years as vice chair of Baltimore County's Commission on Disability and also at one point chaired the Governor's Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So this issue is really important to me. The slides, the pictures that you saw of the trains and the LED displays were taken by my daughter. They go back to perhaps 2015. She rides a train frequently between Baltimore and Washington. I think we've got two issues here under ADA. The public transportation, a municipality or a state is required to make them accessible. And everybody thinks of accessibility as somebody with a physical disability. But this is an effective communication issue, which is also part of ADA. It's important that these audible or signs be available on the train and the buses, and light rail, so that people know where their stops are. This issue began sometime back in 2015, which I brought it to the attention of MDOT. I got correspondence which goes back. It says, we'll do this in the next 2 years. This was in 2018. In 2019, they said things again. This is 2026, and the signs and audible descriptions and real-time captioning is not there, text-based announcements. So it's important for the safety of our passengers that we don't discriminate for individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing. There's some 1.2 million Marylanders aged 12 and above who are deaf and hard of hearing, and 700,000 Marylanders aged 12 or older who are deaf and hard of hearing. In addition, there's about 116,000 Marylanders who have sight impairment. So I urge the committee to give a favorable report to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for bringing this bill. And my question is for Mr. Ben Dubin, who's the constituent and with whom I tried to work on this issue. And so, Ben, I just want to ask you this. Isn't it true that you and I had several meetings with MTA on the LED issue going back years and really to little avail?
Yes, I've tried to pull up some of the correspondence that I've had between you and phone calls with MDOT, and I believe it goes back to 2015. Fortunately for me, I'm down in Florida with 82 degrees weather, but I have my laptop with me, and I generally have saved all this information.
Thank you for your advocacy.
Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the bill. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's necessary. It's actually obligatory, and it should already be in existence. I wanted to ask you if, in your research on this, if you had looked at any of the other transit systems in Maryland and what they do, and if they're in the same boat, like WMATA or some of the others.
Yes, I've been working on this issue broadly for a couple of years in general. So I actually have a report for everything from county-wide for every county and disability services throughout the state. Do we have anything directly from WMATA? No, I mean, this bill, I don't know that we heard from WMATA. I
know your bill is only about MTA.
Yeah, about
I
Mark and
understand that. I just
MTA.
wondered that in your research.
And I'm not sure why we didn't. Because,
or even in other states.
yeah,
I mean, is this a generic problem across?
Yes, no, this is something that's required by federal law. As you said, obligatory, and other states are doing it better than we do. Not everybody does accessibility as they should, but there's really no good argument to put this off or not to do it. I think one of the big issues that, according to the favorable with amendments that I'm sure you'll read from MDOT, they're just saying it would take a lot of money to replace these, and that many of their buses and their trains do not have these services. In fact, the majority of them do. They just haven't been maintained. And so just having them move forward with making sure that their new transportation systems have these going in the future is not quite enough. What they need to do is actually maintain the ones that they have.
Yeah.
So at least that much coming from this bill. And again, we didn't really talk to WMATA on this, but right now this is what
No, I think it's
Yeah.
really important. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see if we could make it apply to everybody.
more expensive.
Well,
No, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Thank you.
Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for bringing this bill. May I just say that having visual and auditory signage, it helps people with disabilities and different abilities, but it's actually for all of us. And that's a great thing about the Americans with Disabilities Act, all of the amenities and the services and supports that assist folks with different abilities actually helps everyone. Okay, that's my soapbox. But I just want to make that clear. This isn't like some disability service. This is for everyone. And my question for you, for the good delegate, is are you aware that there are technologies that might be adoptable that could include not only visual and auditory, informational signage announcements, but could also help with, there's like AI tools, to help with speed control, say on a light rail, or bus stop enforcement at a bus stop, and that there may be opportunities. Did you talk with MTA about any other options that are out there in terms of new technology?
So I didn't talk about bus lane enforcement, although that's very, very important, Delegate Lewis.
Should always be talking about bus lane enforcement.
Under the scope of this bill, what we did talk to them about and what we tested as a team is the apps that are available to find your way, and the name of the app that we... There's a transit app, but then there's also another app that's not associated at all with Maryland that a lot of folks use. I asked specifically some of the folks here that have testified before you today how well that was working for them. And particularly with the Federation of the Blind, they said they really do have difficulty with those apps sometimes. So it's not really enough. Initially, when finding out about that technology, I thought, well, maybe all we had to do is require that everybody understood that this was out there and do QR codes and get the information out. But then to hear that they're not really working very well for the people that need them the most, I wasn't comfortable going that direction only.
Great.
But yes, we've done some research into that kind of technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I do not see any further questions. That concludes the bill here, House Bill 733.